So today we're talking about Prince Vegeta. This will be a heavy one. I don't know how long this will go on for. I don't know what kind of video this will be in full. Um, but I've seen a lot of talk about Vegeta throughout time. I have, and I tend to disagree with it, to be honest. I tend to disagree with a lot of it, especially everything Dragon Ball Super has done with Vegeta. In my mind, they've ruined his character utterly. So let's go over Vegeta, do a little bit of a review on him, and I will give my progressive take as we look throughout time. So an interesting thing about Vegeta and where to begin with him is the fact that Vegeta is not in the entirety of Dragon Ball. He actually, he's only in the Dragon Ball Z portion of it, right? So from when Goku is an adult. And for that reason, Vegeta is a key marker in a change in tone in the story compared to Dragon Ball. Obviously, his presence alone puts a lot more emphasis on Saiyans um, in the series. Beforehand, Saiyans existed, as in Goku, but none of those elements really were relevant other than the fact that Goku was very talented and had a lot of, power and really like physical feats. That's really what we should say is Goku shows a lot of physical feats early on in Dragon Ball that are impressive. Very impressive durability, are the most impressive in the series early on, as well as just like general power feats. Like got some really good hits on Tien, and he took a lot of hits on Tien, like that point where Tien had him up on the wall, and he was just like, poking him, the machine gun poke, and Goku took all that, and he took the beating from the multi-arms, and he took Tien's beating when Chaozu was interfering in the fight. Goku just took a lot of beating back then, and we can go into all kinds of fights, but the point is that Vegeta is new. He's new in tone. His type of character is new. Not really in terms of oh, he's like a deuteragonist type of figure if you want to see him as that. An antagonist turning good kind of thing. Piccolo is the earliest complex example of that. Tien was there, and I'm a real fan of Tien's old arc, but we would agree, Piccolo and Vegeta's arcs are a lot more complex than Tien's, and I'll probably talk about Tien's arc sometime. I don't know if sometime in the near future, but sometime. It's worth talking about. I'm a real fan of Tien. I'm a real fan of Tien, and the place where he went was an honest-to-God tragedy in Dragon Ball. I love the man, what he's become, what he is now. It's sad to see. But Vegeta, he appears in the Namek Saga after Raditz shows up, and I do want to emphasize that Raditz was a serious dude when he showed up. You forget that. But, when you've gone from Dragon Ball to Z right in the beginning, Raditz is kind of like a serious dude. He shows up and he's like, kill 100 humans, or I'll take your son to space away and probably end up killing him. And, he like threatens to kill Gohan several times, and he's an intense dude, honestly. Raditz was a serious dude, and he was powerful when he came in. Nappa and Vegeta, of course, served to jump over Raditz. Raditz was a joke compared to these guys, and this dude who was already serious, who made the last dude, Piccolo, wince in his pants, if you will. The very first, shot of Dragon Ball Z is Piccolo being like, "What is this energy? It's incredible!" Blah blah blah. Piccolo is old news as a villain, and the Saiyans are the new villains here. Vegeta was the leader of these Saiyans, right? So he's the boss. And we're introduced to Vegeta in what you might call his purest form. Vegeta absent of conflict. This is Vegeta leading the life, he had wanted to, for the most part, throughout this time, as the Saiyan Prince, which he wanted. And Vegeta refers to this later. This was when he was pure evil. This is when he had the killer instinct. This is when civilizations would bow and fall to him at a flick of his finger. This is that pure evil Vegeta. And when he first fights Goku, he is stronger than Goku. The only reason Goku is able to do significant damage to Vegeta is because of the Kaioken. Other than that, Vegeta, we would estimate in power levels to be, double to ahead of that of Goku's power himself. And that is something I love. Vegeta, he is introduced in that way. Absent of conflict, he is the strongest Saiyan in the universe. He is, basically. And Goku struggles to fight him and surmount him. And the great thing about just the beginnings of the Goku-Vegeta rivalry, which Toriyama establishes, is that, and this is consistent, Goku never beat Vegeta. On his own. Never happened. Goku and Vegeta have had 2 fights. Goku did not beat Vegeta in either of those cases. First fight, yes, Vegeta, was incapacitated and forced to retreat. But that was not because just Goku's actions. Goku on his own lost to Vegeta. This is key. Now, the great thing about this is Goku lost to Vegeta, but at the same time, he forced Vegeta to use the Uzaru. And even after that, which Vegeta says, the Uzaru is meant to level civilizations. The fact that he needs to use it to take out a low-class, dog is... It's embarrassing. It is, especially for the Prince of all Saiyans. I mean, certainly. But he does. He takes, he accepts it, and he'll take whatever means, and he beats Goku with the Uzaru. He was about to just squeeze the life out of Goku there. And Goku tried to make a spirit bomb, failed. He was going to die. If not for the actions of Krillin, Gohan, and Yajirobe, Goku would have died. Certainly. So Vegeta, he loses to the Earthlings, right? He loses to the Earthlings. But that's the great thing about it, is Vegeta needed all those to be able to defeat him. But Goku, on his own terms, base Goku to base Vegeta, kind of beat Vegeta. As in, he won the beam struggle with him. And he was beating him up in Kaioken times 3 earlier. Granted, with Goku being fatigued after the Kaioken times 4, I think most of us would agree that if Vegeta honestly just came back down, he wouldn't have been able to beat Goku on his own anyway. Even after taking that Kaioken times 4 Kamehameha, the dude just kept going. And, even after, he went back to normal from being an Uzaru, he fought Gohan, comfortably beat him. Really, he was just taken out, exhausted by the Spirit Bomb hitting him. And then Gohan falling on top of him. It took all of that to take the dude out, The dude takes the Kaioken times 3 beating, the Kaioken times 4 Kamehameha. He fights Gohan after taking that and, losing his tail with the Uzaru. Takes a Spirit Bomb to the face. And he was still fighting Gohan as an Uzaru. When Gohan turned Uzaru, he was fighting him. He was actually damaging him. And he obviously cut off the tail too. It's just that Gohan fell on top of him. It took all that. And a slash. To even it out. 5. And a slash right in the back from Yajirobe. All that. To take the dude out, right? The dude takes insane abuse. It took all that to get this man down, right? But he loses, right? He loses, and you get this very interesting moment for the character of Vegeta, for the character of Goku, within Dragon Ball as a whole. And it's pivotal. It is pivotal to DBZ. When Goku asks Krillin to spare Vegeta's life. This is a moment that characterizes so well. I love this moment. One of my favorite in the series. In fact, just seeing Krillin actually gain trust in Piccolo throughout the battle beforehand. And seeing that lead up to this, one of my favorite moments in the series is right before Goku fights Vegeta. The intro to this fight, the intro to both Goku and Vegeta fights, the this one and the SSJ2 versus Majin Vegeta fight are both just incredible. They are so good. Very few fights have as good an opening as these fights. I would say probably none do besides Goku vs. Frieza. I think that's the only one that has a better opening than these two Goku and Vegeta fights. And the only reason is because you have Vegeta's death before the Goku vs. Frieza fight. And we'll get to that, and that's an excellent scene. We'll get to that. But Krillin spares Vegeta to Goku's whims, and Goku asks Krillin. And, I mean, this is, like I said, this is key for characterizing because, do you think anyone else would have spared Vegeta in that case? I mean, it is, Goku and Krillin are best friends. They've known each other since they were kids. The beginning of the fight, you have this great scene where Krillin says to Goku before Goku goes into fighting, after he tells Gohan to go with him, because Krillin, realizes Goku, he's kind of on a new level. He'll let Goku fight in his own. And he says, Goku, we've grown up together. Just make sure we grow old together, alright? Like, oh God, this is, man, man, okay. That was probably too much. That was probably too much. That was probably too much. Yeah, it's really good though. Okay. Alright, so that. But Krillin spares Vegeta. And, Goku, he reminds Krillin that, Piccolo used to be just as bad as Vegeta, and, look where he is. And, it really was great, because Krillin agrees. Krillin says, Piccolo, he's one of us now. You love seeing that transition. Obviously, I mean, the fact that Krillin also saw Piccolo sacrifice himself for Gohan, I mean, I think at that moment, for Krillin and for the audience, we were confirmed Piccolo is no longer evil. I think Krillin was confirmed to that as well. We all were at that moment. And I need to make a video on Krillin as well. Yeah, we have plenty to make here. I'm on it, alright? We'll do that. We'll do that. But, it's about Vegeta Senor right now. So, Vegeta being spared, he would later say, when did he say this? There was a moment. Oh, God. I think he said it when Goku was fighting Kid Buu. And I think he said it in GT. But basically, he says, I think he might have also said it when he had that flashback about when Goku, that image where, like, Vegeta's, like, running in this, like, tunnel. And, like, he sees Super Saiyan Goku and Trunks. I think he might have also said it there that Goku sparing his life was a mistake. I'm pretty sure he said it when he was fighting Kid Buu and in GT. It's like the episode about Vegeta. It's like this flashback episode in GT. Half of it is like just flashbacks of Vegeta. And that's key. Like I said, when Vegeta first appeared, right, that was Vegeta before he had this rivalry complex with Goku. At that time, all he viewed Goku as was a challenger. Right? Just stepping up to the ring, and it's really great because we get to see a lens of how Vegeta would treat a respectable opponent without any introduction, which is the proper introduction to the Goku vs. Vegeta fight after they've flown into that canyon desert kind of place. And Vegeta says, before I, what was the line? I mean, it's been different times. I think he's like, before I, utterly destroy you, kind of a line. I'll offer you to join me. I could use a good man with Nappa gone and all that. And we'll go over Nappa in a second. But I mean, it shows that Vegeta, unlike Nappa, he is arrogant, but mostly just regarding his own strength. Um, he does not have a bias against Goku. He has nothing personal against Goku in that fight, in the beginning of that fight, right? And that gives us an image of how Vegeta views other Saiyans, so long as he is the strongest, which he was at that time. You know, he views Goku merely as a challenger, a possible ally, considering he's a Saiyan, and besides that, he doesn't view him as much. And this is the same with other people. Goku is just more relevant to Vegeta because he's a Saiyan. Vegeta does not view Goku as too different than how he views other people with Frieza, even people who are stronger than him, necessarily. Vegeta cares about being the strongest Saiyan. He does not really care about being the strongest in the universe. He would like to be, but he really needs to be the strongest Saiyan. That is what he cares about. And that's why he doesn't care that for years Zarbon was stronger than him, Dodoria was stronger than him. He does not care about that. Yeah, the Ginyu Force are stronger than him. That's irrelevant to him. But he needs to be the strongest Saiyan. And when Goku shows up, it messes up his ego. And that's really the key to it, is that even if Goku didn't directly, physically, on his own defeat Vegeta, what he did is weaken Vegeta's concept in his mind of being absolutely the strongest Saiyan. He sowed the first doubts in Vegeta's mind. That's really the key to it. Now, that does not mean Vegeta is on the downfall here, after losing to Goku on Earth. By no means. In fact, it actually made him improve. We'll get over that. We will go the rise and fall of Vegeta. We will go the rise and fall of Vegeta and the fall and rise of Vegeta. We will cover both of those within this, because it all depends on your perspective of the character, of what I'm going to cover here. But before I talk about Namek, I'll talk about Nappa, just so I can get this out of the way. A lot of people ask, why did Vegeta kill Nappa? Vegeta has put a lot of emphasis many times in the series, especially, especially later on into like the Cell Saga, and especially in that speech that he gives to Goku as Majin Vegeta, see your race dwindle to a handful, right? Why would Vegeta himself take out a Saiyan when there were so few Saiyans left? This is interesting, and you might see Vegeta is a bit hypocritical for this, right? Well, the reason, from what I can surmise, from what I've read of this scene, and I think I've seen probably every version of this scene you can get, and if I'm remembering right, I'm pretty sure in Kai he says it, and I'm pretty sure in the manga, Nappa says he can't move his legs after Goku hit him with the Kaioken. What this seems to imply is that Nappa's back might have been broken, or at least he's paralyzed from the legs down. He can't move his legs. He said that in multiple translations, so I'm under the impression that he's paralyzed from the waist down. So Vegeta kills Nappa because there's nothing he could do for Nappa at that point. The only thing he could have done is if he sent Nappa away in a spaceship back to be recovered, but Vegeta knew he wouldn't be able to do that. Goku would stop him. Maybe, well, probably, but maybe not, honestly. Vegeta, I just think at that moment, he said, Nappa, he's done. And the thing is, even if Nappa recovered, he would still be paralyzed. You don't just get over that. Unless the rejuvenating chambers, are like, beyond average physical injuries, which we would not assume. Um, so Nappa, he was basically done fighting. His fighting career was over then. Even if Vegeta saved him, he would be useless then. And honestly, I think Vegeta giving Nappa that kind of death is more proper than letting the Earthlings kill him. And I think Vegeta knew that as well. He knew Nappa was done. He knew Raditz got done in by these guys. It was disgraceful. Better that he be done in by the Prince of all Saiyans than be done in by a low class, I think you'd agree. So, I think that's how Vegeta saw it. Nappa was done. He also didn't like Nappa, as we see later with like GT, how he talks about Nappa. Um, Granted, I do like the Vegeta Nappa dynamic. I actually really do. Um, Vegeta with his analytical sense. I love the scene when Krillin does the Destructo Disc Kienzan at Nappa. Nappa, he's just gonna like grab it, and then Vegeta's like, Nappa, dodge it, and then it cuts Nappa's side of his face. I love that scene. That scene is so great. We need to make a Krillin video, just because Krillin is epic, and man, Krillin is awesome, and you boys underplay him. The man is, and he is a man. The man is awesome. I love Krillin, but it's just about Nappa. Yeah. So back to what I was talking about earlier, which is that Vegeta, even though he was defeated by Goku, his fall did not begin with that defeat. It didn't because he learned from his defeat. This is first exemplified by the fact that he learns to sense power levels, crushes his scouter, um, and goes to Namek with that in mind to get the Dragon Balls. He's back. He's got his Zenkai, and he's able to defeat Dodoria and Zarbon's base form with his new power. And he basically launches an insurrection against Frieza's empire by himself, and nearly wins. We'll go into that. But Vegeta was aware of Goku's strength at this time, and he was aware, after Namek, that with his Zenkai, Goku was not a threat to him really anymore in the same way. In other words, when Goku was first going to appear, when Gohan and Krillin say that, because when the Ginyu Force appear, no, it might be right when they appear, or it might have been just a bit earlier than that. Krillin mentions that Goku will appear, and Vegeta mentions, yeah, I think Krillin mentions it when the Ginyu Force appear, like when their ships are in the sky, visible, and the Vegeta brings it up as well when they start fighting the Ginyu Force around there. Vegeta says, even if Goku shows up, he was stronger than him on Earth. Like, Goku would not make a significant difference. So Vegeta's aware of that. So, we can say as Vegeta, he was humiliated on Earth, but he learned from his defeats. Learned to sense ki. He loses his tail after that battle, and he appears fine with that. He's willing to continue fine. And he's got a bright new plan, and he heads on to Namek, and he knows what he's doing. He's got a perfect plan to fulfill his goals. As far as he's concerned, and as far as it is, so long as he didn't fail, losing to the Earthlings may have meant more good than bad for him in the end. But we'll go over this throughout time. So, Vegeta, he gets a Dragon Ball on his own, realizing that if Frieza can't get all 7, then they're useless. So he does that. We do get the scene where he gets duped by Gohan, and not the Pedo Vegeta scene. Actually, yeah, the Pedo Vegeta scene. Yeah, it's that scene. It's just a watch. Everyone knows. Yeah, that scene, man. That's so infamous, and it has a reason for being so infamous, man. man. Just picturing his face, man. Just like, man. Whatever. But, Vegeta gets duped, and he is mad. That's one thing we see with Vegeta. He does not like being proven wrong, right? The first time you see it is after he loses the beam struggle with Goku. And he's just like, no! And I love that scene. He's just screaming, like, ah! He's just so mad. One thing I love is that you see his tail and his hair just spiked up. You know? It's a lot like when Krillin first died, and Goku chased after Tamarine, and he was like that. His tail was all frizzled up, and his hair was spiked up. You know? So, it's cool to see. Next example of that is when he gets duped by Gohan. That's not a watch. It must be some kind of Dragon Ball locator. He's so angry, it's just ridiculous. It's awesome, though. I love that. This is one interesting thing as well that you see in the Namek arc. Vegeta's aura changes color. I mean, this is like an anime thing, but in the Saiyan saga, it was primarily purple, and you might just say, well, it was just the Gallic gun that was purple. Nah, pretty much all of his energy attacks were purple, except for this one, like, fiery orange ki blast he shoots at Goku. The one that messed up half of his gi there. Yeah, I mean, he did several explosive wave type things. He got hit into this rock face, and then, stretches arms out and bursts out with that. And that's a purple light. He does another explosive wave type move after he gets hit by the spirit bomb. He, again, like, pulls his arms out and then shoots this purple energy outwards. The Gallic gun is purple. He also did this one energy punch thing at Goku. Yeah, that was a great one. He got, like, hit away. He lands on the feet, charges at Goku. He got these, like, purple energy in his fist, charging at Goku, and then Goku just gut punches him. And he's all like, he falls on the floor. Awesome. It's great, man. But, what I'm saying is, his energy is key. His aura was all shown purple in that arc. In the Namek arc, it becomes a dark blue, and remains that way pretty much for the rest of the series. Some little changes in the Buu arc that I can mention in a bit, but it turns to a dark blue, and I actually had an Aura General. I call the Aura General on my tablet here. I'm probably gonna do a video about that sometime, but I should have this just on, like, just right to my side here. I just pull it out, be like, oh, if I need notes, here are my notes. But I can do that anytime. I got, like, my archive of notes there. I got, like, 1,000 notes on there. I really should do that. But I made this list of each aura that you see in DBZ in the anime, because you can only take such a reference from the manga. And basically, I made kind of a comparison and description of each one, what I think each aura represents for each character, the type of characters that have them, the reasons for them, kind of a thing. And I described purple aura as intergalactic unspiritual. And what that means is it's just the regular intergalactic aura of intergalactic beings who, they mostly have key people who are in, like, Frieza's empire that we see for the most part. And the reason it is that aura is because, well, I mean, those beings tend to have that color of aura, but what it means is that they don't have any spiritual grasp of their ki. They can't raise or lower their power levels, and they can't sense other power levels. Of course, those abilities we see primarily in the Earthlings, but other races display them, the Nameks display them. But those are spiritual manifestations and manipulations of ki. And Popo. And I mean, if you want to understand how ki works in Dragon Ball, the key, pun intended, of that is Popo's like review of it, like in Dragon Ball. After Goku beats Piccolo and goes up to the lookout, Popo basically describes how ki works, how ki sensing works, how powering yourself up works. You see Goku cut a waterfall, manipulations of ki. Like if you want the crash course on ki, whatever I'm referring to these principles of ki, 2 moments in the series, Popo, that whole training with Goku, everything he describes there, and when Gohan explains it to Videl. Those are your 2 main moments. So a lot of the time I refer to those principles, the statements from those characters right there. But Popo says the key to it, of manipulating and sensing ki, is to empty your mind. Empty your mind to heighten your senses. He describes ki sensing, and you see this test where Goku is wearing a bandana around his eyes so he can't see. And Popo describes sensing an aura as comprehending your own, and then basically seeing the signatures of aura around, and basically firming your aura with the others, attaching it to it, in that direction, and drawing them to yourself through sensing, and then pursuing it, chasing after it. The other way Popo describes sensing ki is, again, empty your mind to heighten your senses, and from there, sense the reflections of the aura on the air itself. Feel and comprehend how the other person's aura is affecting the air around you. And through that, interpret where they are. That's how you fight without seeing. That's how you fight with all your senses, is, by seeing those details. Feel your aura compared to theirs. That's how you sense a power level, is you compare your own to theirs, right? In that same exact way that you can follow it and see it. You can, analyze it and compare it for yourself, right? And the way Vegeta gets a ki is kind of cheeky on the part of Toriyama, because Toriyama basically just says is that because Vegeta was on the Earth and, I guess, adapted to the Earth's climate, he became able to sense ki. What I personally think, now firstly we should remember, Vegeta is an elite. He is what you would call a prodigy. I mean, we saw the dude taking out Cybermen, like 5... Was it 5? Yeah, it was 5. 5 Cybermen when he was like 6 years old. Literally 6 years old. This dude, we can say, is stronger than Raditz, 6 years old. Half of Goku's age as a kid, and he's that powerful. Vegeta is a prodigy. Like, let's not forget that. We tend to, but he is. He is a super elite prodigy. And I'll go over Goku and why I don't think he's a prodigy in my own time. But Vegeta, he's on the Earth. He's on the Earth's climate. It would be a climate different to any he had felt before, we would estimate. And, he is able to learn to sense ki from that. As for why the Nameks could, like, if Earth is special in this regard, it may be that Earth is special or other planets are special. Personally, I don't think Namek is special in the same way Earth is. As in, I don't think Nameks can sense ki because of the climate of the planet. I think it's actually just because of the fact that all Nameks are pure heart. All Nameks are pure good. And they all also share somewhat of a consciousness between Guru. Guru, of course, displays telekinetic abilities, things like that. So I personally think Guru probably taught it to all the Nameks, and taught, like, ki manipulation and all that to each Namek. So I think it's just really like a rite of passage for Nameks to understand ki control. I don't think it's because of Planet Namek itself. as well. And we would say Frieza is a prodigy as well. I can only take this justification so far. If Namek's climate could teach you to sense ki, why would Frieza's not learn that and everything like that? So I think it has something to do specifically with the Earth's climate in that case, and with Namek, I think it's just because of the nature of the Nameks and Guru. Um, and Guru, he's able to unlock someone's potential. So clearly, he he's clearly like a spiritual master of ki, we would say. Where exactly he learned that, I'm not sure. I mean, this would understand like ki control and these things are foreign to the intergalactic system, right? And the Nameks used to be a part of that trading system, so it may be actually that Guru is actually just special. The old Nameks were kind of similar in the fact that they were unspiritual, and Guru is actually the exception. He learned these spiritual aspects of ki and passed that on to all of his children. Which would be fine. I mean, the name was Namek on Kami's Lookout. Possibly, well, yeah, he did learn from Mr. Popo to an extent. Yeah, it was never said. Wait, yeah, because Popo is an assistant, but did Popo train Kami? I'm trying to think of the dialogue. I don't think it was ever said specifically that Popo trained. No, he did. He did. But yeah, I think Popo said that he trained Kami, but he was never stronger than Kami. I think that's what he said. I believe so. So yeah, I mean, the Nameless Namek would need to learn this as well. So, of course. So it's not innate to the Namek's nature. I think. I think a Guru is more of the exception there. And in that regard, that means Vegeta picked that up by being exposed to the Earth's climate. We've seen these other characters. Goldo could sense power levels via telekinesis, although he could not raise and lower his power level. Ginyu could raise and lower his power level, probably because it had something to do with his body change. He might need to actually adapt his power to, in a certain extent, to his opponents. Frieza can raise and lower his power levels. Yeah, he can. Most cannot, though. So, I think Vegeta picked that up. Yeah, I would say mainly just because he had a high enough power level and because he is an elite. That would be my explanation for it. And yeah, it is kind of awkward, but it just would be an example of how different the Earth's climate is to other planets in the series. But anyway, all this rant was talking about the fact that Vegeta's aura changes color. Alright, so I define purple as intergalactic unspiritual, and I define dark blue, which is Vegeta's aura, for pretty much the rest of the series, and definitively the rest of the series if you consider GT canon, to be spiritual, unrefined. So compared to other ones like white, I consider to be spiritual mastered or spiritual refined. Light blue, I typically consider to be that one was like spiritual unmastered. Basically, it was above, spiritual unrefined, like what Vegeta has. Like that's what Goku has. Goku has a light blue aura, so he is not spiritually perfect in that regard, but he's better than what Vegeta is. Most of the humans are white aura, so they actually have a higher spiritual affinity than Goku does, and we'll go into that when we do. But, for now, that's Vegeta's aura. It's also Trunks' aura. Future Trunks, that's his aura as well. Kid Trunks, I had a really time pinpointing his aura, but his aura seems to be mostly white, from what I've seen. So, Future Trunks and Vegeta actually have a blue aura, a dark blue aura. So they are both spiritual, unrefined. in their case, which means obviously they can sense ki, they can raise and lower their power levels, they understand those basics, but they don't do it by the traditional means of emptying your mind to heighten your senses. I think what it is they simply can comprehend and quantify their own power to the point where they can sense it and compare it to others, and they can raise their power level because they can quantify it, but they can't sense in the traditional, spiritual, refined way, which is emptying your mind, as Popo says. That's my opinion on it. Which means, Vegeta, he actually isn't perfect at sensing. And he does fight with his instincts more than the other people do. More than just relying on, sensing and sensing the nature of the battlefield more. Vegeta actually does just rely on his instincts more, in my estimation. Within that reasoning. Some people will disagree, but, each aura color to me is meant to represent something, and, I'm just trying to make conclusions along with Popo's explanation, so. And yeah, that makes sense as well, because Vegeta understanding how to sense, in the perfect way, the mastered way, the spiritual way, where you need to empty your mind. Goku took 3 years of training to learn that, right? Meditation and things like that. And I just don't think Vegeta would be capable of that with no training at all, right? So, that's my opinion. But yeah, so his aura changes because he learns the ability to sense ki, and he learned that from fighting on Earth, and in that he gained from fighting on Earth. He didn't totally lose there. So anyway, we're going to be going into the Namek arc, and like I said, Vegeta, he lost on Earth, but it's not his downfall at this point. He's still rising. He's still rising. And the reason is because none of his plan was really hurt by going to Earth. His plans were just changed. The situation has just changed for Vegeta by Namek. So he defeats Zarbon and Dodoria, and manages to get the Dragon Balls away. He has 6 of them, and he's about to get the 7th until the Ginyu Force show up and they take those back to Frieza. Now this is the beginning of the triples for Vegeta. He loses to the Ginyu Force. Flat out loses, we all know he does. Stomped by Raccoon. And then Goku saves him. This is the moment where the complex between Goku and Vegeta is formed. Beforehand, Vegeta, he admitted that on a one-on-one fight, he had kind of lost to Goku. He was humiliated by Goku, but he was still stronger than him. So much as he knew. Goku shows up, beats the Ginyu Force, seemingly an impossible feat, and then Vegeta begins thinking, is he a Super Saiyan? It's at this moment where Vegeta first doubts himself, after getting beaten by the Ginyu Force and seeing Goku like that. And this is the beginning of the Goku-Vegeta complex. Now, Vegeta does mention settling the score with Goku when he does appear. I think he says this. Yeah, he says this right after being given the Senzu Bean. So he does have a bit of a rivalry opinion of Goku at this point, but that's not firmly developed yet. Not completely. It's just beginning to be developed. And that is an interesting kind of scenario to think of when you think of the power levels, is Goku first showing up on Namek versus Zenkai Vegeta. The Vegeta right after he got beaten up by Raccoon, because we know that Vegeta, with his Zenkai, clashed with base Frieza. I think certain official sources have put him at 250,000 there. On my list, I know I had him at 262,500. Very certain calculations there. I know the official Daizenshuu power level source did not have a power level for that Vegeta. So 250,000 was through, well, not as respectable sources as the die venture. So that one's more variable, and I had that at 262.5, which is quite close to Frieza, who was 265,000. But the point is, he's kind of at base Frieza level, kinda. So, Goku was 90,000, which means Goku and Kaioken times 3 would be 270,000. So, I mean, if Goku could do a prolonged, semi-prolonged Kaioken times 3, like do it multiple times casually like a base Kaioken, they'd actually be able to have a kind of equal fight. Although, Goku said he could do a Kaioken times 10 when he was training. So, Kaioken times 10 stopped. But, it's just an interesting thought. But it doesn't really matter, because Goku will get his Zenkai after being beaten up when Ginyu controls him, and way past Vegeta. I mean, on my power levels, I had Vegeta as almost just half as strong as Goku when he showed up. So that's it. Vegeta, he struggles. He gets through, and he gets Goku's help. And through that, he almost wins. Because what was Vegeta's goal? It wasn't to beat Goku at that point. It was to become mortal. That was his ultimate goal. And he almost got it. Almost got it. It's actually very funny and ironic. The beginning of the fall of Vegeta is a very simple and quaint scene. After Goku is brought back and put in the rejuvenation chamber, Vegeta, he hasn't slept possibly for several days. And the reason is because, Namek has no nights because it has 3 suns on it. Vegeta, once he had all the 6 Dragon Balls, and he was waiting to get the 7th, he sat in that area on Namek the entire time for what could have been days. It was at least one day of just sitting there. Yeah, I think it might have been at most 3 days. So Vegeta at that point, he fought Raccoon, no sleep. He fought Jace, no sleep. And he takes a nap. A hour-long nap, I believe. He planned for it to be 30 minutes, but it was an hour because he was so tired. He takes a nap right next to the Goku's rejuvenation chamber. How ironic, isn't it? And then in that time, Krillin and Gohan and Dende, they get Dende, and then they go and summon Purunga. And in that moment, Vegeta, he wakes up. You see, Guru dies right when Vegeta was about to become immortal. In other words, that little nap Vegeta got, that nap is the beginning of the fall of Vegeta. And this is really where I want to get started. Yes, 50 minutes in, we're getting started. Yeah, but you see, here's the thing. Vegeta succeeded. Vegeta was at his best. Vegeta was stronger than Goku when he was pure evil. That's the key. Vegeta was stronger than Goku when he was pure evil. And in this moment, why did he fail? Why did he not become immortal? He let trust to the Earthlings for just a second. Just takes a nap. They won't do anything, will they? They do. if he had just been there that entire time, he would have gotten his wish. He would have been immortal. He would have won. Just gave the Earthlings just a bit of trust. And it fails. It's done. And from that moment on, all that he would have left is not being immortal, but trying to prove his strength against Goku. And we'll go over that, but it's just a key moment to reflect on. That Vegeta, and we'll establish this, Vegeta does not complete his goals at the end of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, he does not complete his goals. But I think that's really what I like about him. Is the fact that, I've said this before, Goku's story is about one surpassing your limits, you know, in all zones, all times, right? Always surpassing your limits, always pushing beyond. Vegeta's is about accepting your limits. That is my opinion. And we'll go over why I just disagree with Dragon Ball Super's characterization so much when the time comes. In this video, I mean, we're still going. We're still going. Still going. But yeah, you know, Vegeta, he surpasses or matches Goku when he is pure. When he lets all those connected to him to the wayside, he is able to get to that level that he wants. But, well, we'll discover the consequences of that as we go. But that's really the key, is just trust the Earthlings for a second, and he doesn't get what he wants. He fails his goal, and in the end, he fights Frieza, and in the end, he dies. And it's Vegeta's complex in that fight is very interesting to observe, because right in the beginning, Vegeta dares Frieza to transform. You know, he says, "My power is skyrocketing, and the boy behind me may be even stronger." But he doesn't. His power is incredible, but he doesn't even know it yet. And then Frieza transforms. He curb stomps Krillin, you know, to the uttermost, right? Just utterly destroyed, killed basically. And right at that moment, well, Gohan goes into a rage and attacks Frieza. And you get this great scene where you know, he punches Frieza, kicks him in the face away, knocks him down to the ground, and just shoots this flurry of ki blasts down at him. Huge explosion, very well looking scene. And Vegeta has given up. It's very interesting to see. Vegeta has given up. The moment he sees the true power of Frieza's second form, power level over 1,000,000, he gives up. And he actually tries to run away, but Frieza appears, and you know, is all, "Where are you going?" And it's very interesting, the fact that Vegeta was so cocky going into that fight, but the moment he sees Frieza's true power, he gives up immediately. And I think it's because he's been around Frieza for so long, and he thought at this point he had gone past that. You know, he must be past Frieza at this point. Not even close. Not even close. Piccolo steps in, fights Frieza, begins losing to him, and that's when Vegeta gets the whole self-inflicted wound idea with Krillin. And of course, right, you know, I said Vegeta fell, right? Vegeta fell. The beginning of his fall is the moment he took that nap. And he didn't get immortality. It was close. You know, playing the humans long, you know, struggling against, you know, the Ginyu Force, taking out Frieza's goons, the Dragon Balls, everything like that. He had done all of it, you know, resting on his laurels, you know, after the Earth fight, running on a sense power level, all of this. He had taken it all, and he just almost got there. He almost had it in his hands. But he just made one mistake. In this fight, Vegeta's in complete desperation. in that beginning with Frieza. But then he takes the self-inflicted wound method. In other words, he cheats to try and get stronger. And the great thing about this, he does get stronger, and he powers up, and he thinks he's a Super Saiyan. And Piccolo says, I think Piccolo called Vegeta, like, impressive. So we could say Vegeta is probably stronger than Piccolo. We could probably say that. Around third form Frieza level or above it. I put him above it on my power levels. And the great thing about this, Vegeta powers up, attacks Frieza with all he has. He can't hit Frieza at first. Then he shoots a bunch of ki blasts at him, and they just bounce off Frieza. Telekinesis, just doesn't work. And Vegeta keeps trying, and it just doesn't work. Doesn't work. And then he does his final attack. Huge blast. I think I call it the final Gallic Cannon in my notes. But yeah, it looks like just huge Gallic gun. And like I said, Vegeta, his ki is dark blue here, but those do appear to be Gallic guns. There was a time where he did what appeared to be a double Gallic gun, what I called it. He charges up two things in his hands, and they're purple, so I call that a double Gallic gun. And this blast is also purple, so I call it Gallic gun. If it's purple, Gallic gun. If it's not, then it's different. And yeah, when Vegeta did that whole, thing, that attack against Raccoon, yes, I do define that as a Final Flash. I'm probably gonna get the same, like, people, it's not called Final Flash, like the same people with the whole Dragon Fist. Penetrate! It's a Final Flash. It looks like one. I don't care if he doesn't say it. It is one. It looks like that. It's cool to think of it like that. It's Final Flash. I don't care what you say. Whatever. Whatever. But, if anything has to say about it, Vegeta can do a Final Flash in the video games. So again, the video games come to my aid. That was a Final Flash. But, Vegeta fails to beat Frieza. Can't do anything against him. And he cries. He cries in that moment. And I love that. What it is, Vegeta, he had just tried to come all this way. His goal was ripped straight from him right at the end. And at this moment, he isn't a Super Saiyan. He isn't. And he's just humiliated by Frieza. Frieza's got him choked by the tail, punching him in the gut. He's coughing blood, right onto Frieza's face. He just, licks it out of his face, all that. Frieza, in my mind, is the most brutal of all the Dragon Ball villains. The most what's the word? Malevolent? It's kind of a generic word. Brutal is it, but sadistic. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, Vegeta, he knows at that moment, the moment that blast failed to take out Frieza, he was done. He wasn't a Super Saiyan. His fight was done at that moment. And it's interesting to comment on. It's interesting to see that and to reflect on that. How Vegeta had gone all that way, and I think Vegeta knew where he had failed already at that point. And really, Vegeta will only fall from here, right? Like I said, Vegeta, he's, and yeah, so he realizes that he is lost in his game. Frieza is the victor of this game against him until he is saved by by Goku. Goku shows up right before Vegeta is about to be killed. And Vegeta realizes Goku's power. And Vegeta, when Goku appears, is content in Goku being the one to kill Frieza. And he rants off. He's like, "Oh, imagine the irony of you being beaten by a Saiyan." For him, Goku beating Frieza is fine, and this does show several things. There's a lot to say from this scene about Vegeta's character. So it's tough to know where to start, but the rival complex with Goku was still, at this point, not fully developed. It will not be till the Android Saga. And the main thing that develops it is Super Saiyan, and we will see that. Vegeta realizes that if he is not the Super Saiyan, then Goku with his incredible power is. Therefore, he will beat Frieza. And Vegeta is content in this. What Vegeta says, though, before he dies, is, Frieza, he destroyed Planet Vegeta. He killed both of their fathers. Just ask him. He's proud of it. Before he passes out, he says, kill Frieza. Well, before that, he says, he made me who I am. And I think this is a critical aspect of Vegeta's psychology, because understand throughout throughout this time, right, that I've been going on this spiel about the downfall of Vegeta, I've been talking about that from a power standpoint. And the reason why I said earlier, I mentioned the fall and rise and the rise and fall of Vegeta, it's because this dynamic to Vegeta can be viewed in two ways. It can be viewed as Vegeta becomes a more, moral and, respectable and good guy as time goes on. He becomes a better person. And for that reason, he grows. And for that reason, he rises. But at the same time, the level he is at with Goku, the rivalry with which he wishes to maintain, he gets further and further away. And I'll go over to that in more detail as I do, but that's why this can be viewed as a rise and fall or a fall and rise. Vegeta, in a moral sense, rises, but on a power sense, he falls. As he becomes, less evil, the gap with Goku widens. And I will go over this as it goes along, but that's what I need to mention. But it is important to this point because in this moment, Vegeta puts that aside. In regards to Frieza, he puts that aside for the honor of the Saiyans. For that, and this is where we see Vegeta's moral side come in, and Goku shows respect to Vegeta. And Goku makes a critical statement here. He says, let's see if I can quote this properly. He says, you weren't as cold as you thought yourself to be. A heart of stone couldn't shed tears like you did. And I think this is when, Goku understands this in Vegeta. Vegeta doesn't understand this in himself, but Goku understands it in him. Which is that ultimately, Vegeta is not pure evil. Or at least, he doesn't want to be. And really, he states this when he says, Frieza made me what I am. In the end, this isn't what he wanted to be. This isn't how he likes being. But it's what he needed to do to survive, to get by. And we'll see, when Vegeta no longer needs to be in this way, he will steer away from this path. But there will be consequences for that, and we will go over that. So, this is Vegeta's death here. Goku honors him, gives him a burial, and, promises to avenge the Saiyans. And he does fulfill the legend of the Super Saiyan and achieves the transformation, and defeats Frieza with it. Now, we do have a great anime-only scene here, where Vegeta wakes up after being revived on Namek, and he sees Goku as a Super Saiyan. And again, part of why I say this whole rivalry with Goku isn't fully developed yet is because of Vegeta's reaction here. He sees Goku as a Super Saiyan, and he has this kind of exhilaration about it. He says, Kakarot, you've done it. You're a Super Saiyan, right? Goku has achieved it. Goku has fulfilled the legend, and he will defeat Frieza. And again, Vegeta was content in that. Vegeta, when he died, could have gone out content like that. He could have. Even though he failed. Even though he didn't achieve his goal, he could. But he didn't. And in the end, he was sent back to Earth. Now, you get an interesting scene here. Back on Earth, Vegeta actually... What he says is, now that Goku and Frieza are gone, he is the strongest being in the universe. So, he kind of won. Gohan stands up to Vegeta for this. You get that, scene. They have a little fight. And, Vegeta takes it that way. He views it in that utilitarian sense. He says, oh, well, technically I won. But we see that really he didn't, and he knows he didn't. Because Goku lives. And once Vegeta finds out that Goku lives, once Shenron confirms it, what we see him do is he takes off for space to look for Goku, to learn how to become Super Saiyan. He wants to ask Goku how. Because really, after he failed to become immortal, all that he wants is just to surpass Goku. That's really all he wants. And I think after Frieza was gone, he really realized that there was no point in becoming an immortal anymore. Because really he just wanted to be the strongest Saiyan. To beat Frieza, he wanted to become immortal. That's the only way he saw how to do that. But for Goku, he wants to beat him on legitimate terms. And that's how he wants to fight Goku. So Goku would want to fight Vegeta that way, but Vegeta will want to fight Goku that way too. Which is key to understand. Which is why Vegeta never tried to become immortal ever again. He only would become immortal as a part of his plan. For a goal he wanted. And after Frieza was gone, the only goal he wanted was just to be the strongest Saiyan. That's it. That's the only thing he cared about. For a while. So. The Android Saga. Now. This really is the turning point for Vegeta. I mentioned in Namek where Vegeta's downfall began by just giving an inkling of trust to the humans, right? Allying with them, giving them new armor, healing Goku, these things. He just trusted them. He trusts them too much, just a little too much, and he fails, right? His goal is upset. And from that point, he was just humiliated by Frieza completely, and by Goku, inadvertently by him becoming Super Saiyan. And he accepted Goku being Super Saiyan before the fact that he needed to continue living with Goku also being alive, right? If either he were dead or Goku were dead, he wouldn't care that Goku was a Super Saiyan. Really. Because, either one would be around or one wouldn't. He could be content either way. Frieza was gone, and that's really what he really wanted. That's really, I think, the person Vegeta reviles more than anyone else is Frieza. Um, so in the Android Saga, we see an interesting thing. I mentioned before that Vegeta, the only time he catches up with Goku, is on terms with him or anything like that, is when he is pure evil. When he abandons everyone else in his life and fights solely for himself and goes down the pure evil road, that is when he can match Goku's power. And we see this when he first turns Super Saiyan. For that 3 years, he had brutally trained himself. We see the flashback in the anime where, he said he let go. This is what he says. He says he didn't care about being stronger than Goku at that moment. He let all of it go. He didn't care about being a Super Saiyan. He didn't care about being stronger than Goku. He didn't care about anything about that. And I think in that moment, as Vegeta had struggled so long trying to become a Super Saiyan and become stronger than Goku, the moment he let that thought go and said he didn't care, he felt this profound shame that he would give up, but at the same time he saw it as impossible for him to continue, impossible for him to succeed, and he gave up living in that moment. But in the combination of that shame and that, that private death he was awaiting, and that need in that moment, as we know, Super Saiyan responds to a need. The need, not the desire. All that. Vegeta becomes Super Saiyan. And I think it's because in that moment he was able to push Goku away from himself. And we see that once Vegeta has become Super Saiyan, he does not care about being stronger than Goku. In that time, and this is critical, right? Again, if Vegeta goes on the pure evil path, he will meet or surpass Goku's level. And in my opinion, he surpassed Goku's level at that point. And he did not care about Goku. Goku lost. He said, I'll take care of things. He wanted everyone out. He planned to just take care of the situation on his own. However, he was defeated by Android 18. Now, in this moment, he still did not view himself as inferior to Goku. Still viewed himself as superior to Goku, which, at that point as well, he may well have been. I think he was, probably. Still. Well, maybe or maybe not. Depends on the Zenkai interpretation you get out of like what the heart virus did to Goku. I think on mine I actually made Goku slightly stronger because I counted the heart virus as a Zenkai, but that's for another video. So Vegeta really did not care about being stronger than Goku after he turned Super Saiyan because in his mind he was probably superior, right? I mean he was, but he claimed to be that, and I think he was. Vegeta closed that gap by focusing solely on himself, his own determination, his own strength, pure evil. I mean we see it. His child and his wife. I don't know if he was married to Bulma at that time. Very weird, very strange. But she's about to like fall off a cliff and die, and Trunks saves her, and Vegeta does not care. Does not care at all about that. Does not care about anyone. And he says, there are more than one way to achieve the goal. And he says he became Super Saiyan because he's pure evil. So Krillin says you need to be pure heart. And he says, yeah, pure heart. That doesn't mean pure good. I'm pure evil. He says it. That's how he became Super Saiyan. That's what he says. And whatever, if you're gonna Bardock Super Saiyan, episode of Bardock, whatever these characters are, Kaba, Dragon Ball Super, out of here. None of this, nah. Classic canon, GT canon, the classic canon. Enough of this, like, nah, super nonsense. I don't believe in it. Not true. You need to be pure heart to be a Super Saiyan. You need to be. Anyway, um, but yeah, Vegeta, he became Super Saiyan because he was pure evil. He was. He was. And by pursuing that, he was able to level the playing field. But the Android Saga will, throughout its entire run, will be this progressive weakening of that in Vegeta. In the beginning, he meets the level of Goku. Trunks comes in, trains with Trunks in the Time Chamber. Now, initially, he did not care about Trunks. I mean, he kind of respected Trunks, like the fact that he's like, oh, a Super Saiyan at his age. Well, he is my son, things like that. But I mean, he really didn't care about Trunks, and he completely ignored Trunks in the Time Chamber. But when he comes out of the Time Chamber, he does introduce Trunks to Cell, right? He's not quite as strong as me, but he's around the same level, right? He introduces Trunks with a bit of pride to him. He's not just completely apathetic to Trunks in that moment, as we see. So he went from apathetic to a slight pride in him, as we see him. And at that moment, again, getting closer to Trunks, getting further away from pure evil, and he fails. He loses to Cell. Puts in everything he has, and he loses. And yeah, he lost to his own arrogance. That's true. But still, he lost because he wasn't strong enough. I mean, here's the thing. Vegeta, if he had trained like Goku did, let's not get into that. But the point is, Goku, with the way he went through things, ended up stronger than Vegeta. Really, the Hyperbolic Time Chamber was a value assessment for Vegeta and Goku. And Goku ended up better, right? Vegeta was becoming split between his goal. And we'll see the culmination of that at the end of the Cell games. But for here, Vegeta loses. With the path he had taken, the direction he is going, he's going now. He fails. Cell games, you see the culmination of that. He at least injured Cell with the Final Flash. I mean, he did. If Cell couldn't regenerate, he would have been dead. Like, let's be honest about that. Trunks gets hit by what seems to be a death beam. The game is considered a death beam. So again, the video games. Video games are a legit source, dog. Video game. But yeah, Trunks killed by that. And Vegeta charges in rage. He cares about Trunks. In other words, he's not pure evil. He is not selfishly pursuing power above all to meet Goku's level. He isn't. He's becoming split. Split between his family and his new home, and his rivalry, his goal. And that time against Cell, he does nothing. Not a scratch on Cell after all those blasts. And he's just knocked away, knocked unconscious by that. And there is a great moment where Cell is charging up his Kamehameha. Gohan has lost hope, and Vegeta actually says, "I'm sorry, Gohan." That's a heavy one. But, he says, "I'm sorry, Gohan." Gohan says it's weird to hear Vegeta say something like that, and it is. And, yeah, Vegeta in that moment he's not the same. He is changed. And in that moment, through his actions, he helps Gohan beat Cell. I mean, he does. He's critical to that. He helps Gohan beat Cell. But he doesn't beat Cell, right? In the end, and Vegeta will say this, of course, later on, the inferior of Kakarot's son, right? So, and that's the end of that. But this arc ends for Vegeta on a very interesting line. Very interesting. After Goku sacrifices himself, Vegeta says, I am not a warrior, and I will never fight again. And before that, he was saying, Kakarot, how could you sacrifice yourself selflessly without a bit of fear? What does that make me? And it's very interesting. Vegeta will, later comment on Goku's selflessness to protect his loved ones. And we see in this moment Vegeta acting on rage to protect his loved ones, Trunks, and he gets nothing out of that. And as we see, as he gets a family into the Buu Saga, this does not increase his power whatsoever. The gap between him and Goku has not been closed. Now let's go over one thing about Vegeta, a fan theory that people like to throw out there, which is, was Vegeta Super Saiyan 2 before he had Majin? An interesting question. The interesting thing about this theory is that nothing proves it wrong or right necessarily. It's really just a matter of interpretation on your part. Personally, I like to think the Majin did give him Super Saiyan 2. And the reason is because, as I went over in my Super Saiyan forums analysis and theories, in my opinion, Super Saiyan 2 is powering up Super Saiyan to its full capacity, right? It is mastering Super Saiyan, and with that mastered state, powering up to the full capacity of the base Super Saiyan form. And Vegeta could do that, without Majin, perhaps, but I like to think the Majin gave him that. And the reason I do mainly is because of just how impressed Vegeta was with Goku's fight with Yakon. He said after he saw Goku fight Yakon, he knew he needed Babidi's magic to be able to fight Goku. The reason I think this is because there's a little... I don't remember how it was in the manga, but in the anime, there's this flash where you see Goku's hair standing up for a second when he powers up to full to have Yakon absorb too much energy. And in my opinion, in that moment, Goku went Super Saiyan 2 for a brief second. And I think Vegeta, who in this hypothetical could not go Super Saiyan 2, saw that and concluded, if that's the case, he can't beat Goku. Now, I do think Super Saiyan Vegeta is actually stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Adult Gohan of that time, I do. In my opinion, he is. But not Super Saiyan 2 against Goku would be an obvious failure. So he goes Majin, he's Super Saiyan, and he powers up to Super Saiyan 2. Right there. It's a matter of interpretation, but I just personally think that if Vegeta were Super Saiyan 2 already, I don't think he was that far from Goku at that point. I don't think he was. And that's why I think the fact that he thought Majin was completely necessary means him getting Super Saiyan 2 through Majin justifies it more on a power standpoint. But that's my personal interpretation. You can interpret it however you want. Because there's really nothing that states for or against it. It's really just preference. Um, there's not even any movies it appears in or anything like that. So that's my personal opinion on that. But let's go over Majin Vegeta. Now, this is Vegeta's last attempt to get even with Goku. This is his last attempt to do so. And he knows it is his last chance. Goku will go to Otherworld for the rest of eternity after this day. So he needs to fight Goku. And he needs to take any measures he can to fight Goku and test himself to see if he can win. Now, let's go over one thing. Why did Vegeta train? I mean, we just ended off the Android saga with a quote where he says, "I am not a warrior and I will never fight again." My personal opinion is when Vegeta mentions that he began to fight for his loved ones and the Earth as well. He fought for the Earth in place of Goku. Basically, Gohan and Vegeta were the primo defenders of Earth after Goku was gone. And I think that became Vegeta's new drive. Earth was his home, and he wanted to protect it from that point. He won't admit that in the Buu saga, but I think that's what gave him the motivation to do so. Because there was nothing to test his skills on. Goku was gone. I think that's really what it was for. So, he realizes, though, of course, as I have been saying for a while throughout this, the only time he has been able to catch up with Goku is when he goes on a pure evil path. Attachments, family, that it may have given Goku power, but it has not given Vegeta power. And he realizes that. And through Majin, that is what that is. Well, yeah. He realizes that and he goes the full direction for that. It is his last desperate attempt to fulfill his goal of being the strongest Saiyan. And well, it's interesting because the fight between Goku and Vegeta was interrupted. Now, it's debatable where you think things would have lied. Now, we know that Goku could always have turned Super Saiyan 3. And that's really the crux of this battle, right? Is even if you say, oh, well, Vegeta, I think he could have beaten Super Saiyan 2 Goku. If you think that, which, I don't necessarily disagree with that if that's what you think. Just saying. But even if he could, Goku could just turn Super Saiyan 3. And whatever, you might give me some, well, he would be a fatigued Super Saiyan 3. 4 times stronger, bare minimum. He would win, alright. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, doesn't matter if he's fatigued. Vegeta is almost just as fatigued. No. Super Saiyan 3 Goku, fatigued or not, beats Majin Vegeta. He does, alright? Whatever. Okay? Like he does. And that's really why it's the ironic thing about it, because we mostly consider Majin Vegeta and Super Saiyan 2 Goku to be equal in power. Almost every power level I see considers them equal. But Goku can still go, further beyond and beat Vegeta. And that's why, this desperate attempt is really a complete failure. Vegeta gains nothing out of this. He gets to fight Goku. He kind of becomes equal, but it doesn't matter. And Vegeta knows it doesn't matter. When he's talking about surpassing Goku, he's talking about surpassing Goku completely, right? But The moment Super Saiyan 3 came into the picture, Vegeta realized, it was pointless. um, that Majin was pointless. Vegeta, he was too late into it. That's what it is. He was too late into the game. The dude was around 40 at this point. Yeah. The ship had already sailed, at this point. Like I said, and Majin, even if he did get equal to Super Saiyan 2 Goku, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now we do get to see Vegeta's perspective out of this in the brilliant speech. The speech that maybe got me into DBZ, to be honest. Like, this is basically my first exposure to DBZ that I ever had. It was this, and then it was the compilation of all the Ultimates in Budokai 3, and then the Some Call Me Johnny DBZ Budokai review. So that basically got me into Dragon Ball. That right there. But everyone knows this one. It's so good. It's so good. Don't you see the fate of the world bears more importance than your meaningless squabble? Meaningless, huh? See your race dwindle to a handful, and then tell me what has more meaning than your own strength. Not to you, not to you, Gohan, but to a warrior it matters greatly. Oh man, Vegeta, certainly you wouldn't. I just quote it. I can just keep quoting it. It's so good. Like, it's just, oh man. I'll be honest. I think that introduction, that scene, is better than the fight itself. In my opinion, the introduction to that fight, I think, is better than the fight itself. People say that fight's a masterpiece. Well, I mean, well, whatever. The introduction is just too good, just too good. That is just incredible. But what he says is basically, he, the super elite warrior, the prodigy of the Saiyans, strongest Saiyan, prince of all Saiyans, has been forced to be the inferior of a low class for years, has been saved by this low class, has had his life spared in the case of Krillin, had his life saved in the case of Namek, and had his life saved in the case of Cell by Gohan, a child of this low class. And he's been humiliated. And he's been on this planet and he's taken up the customs. And he's become an Earthling. And he's become weak. And this low class defeated Frieza, the great terror to the Saiyan race, the being who purged the entire Saiyan race. The Saiyan race was avenged not by the Prince of all Saiyans, but by this low class. The Super Saiyan legend was fulfilled not by the Prince of all Saiyans, but by this low class. And after which he would need to struggle for years just to even accomplish that same level, just to be humiliated once again, and then abandoned by Goku before he could even challenge him. Well, these are all Vegeta's problems. But like I said, in the end, I mean, this is really what it's about, right? This is Vegeta's last attempt to turn to the dark side, to go that pure evil way. And even though he kind of meets Goku's level in the end in the wholesale. Because he doesn't have Super Saiyan 3, he didn't catch up, and in the end it wasn't worth it. And in the end we see, here's the thing. We see Vegeta's sacrifice. Now, the sacrifice is what Vegeta's true motives really are. And like I said before, Goku had gotten a sense of this, and I think it's in this moment where Vegeta gets a sense of this. And I think he truly acknowledges it in himself at this point. Where Goku on Namek had said, you weren't as cold as you believe yourself to be. Someone with a heart of stone couldn't shed tears like you did. It's in this sacrifice, which is parallel to Goku's sacrifice, by the way. Of course, Vegeta says, Kakarot, you sacrificed yourself selflessly without an inch of fear. In this moment, Vegeta does the same. He sacrifices himself selflessly and without fear against Buu, regardless of the beating he's taken. And he does it for his son. And he says that for his wife, for his son, and for Kakarot in that moment. And Vegeta probably acknowledges that he can see Goku as a friend, and probably in some respect he thanks Goku, not only for bringing him to this point in terms of reaching the power he has, but for bringing him his family, and for, and giving honest appreciation to Goku. He does have some of that in him, and he acknowledges that in that moment. In GT, Vegeta reminisces that when he sacrificed, all he was thinking about was his son. That's really all he was thinking about. And Vegeta does care for Trunks. We've seen that in Cell, and we've seen that in this case. It's an interesting case. Before this, right when Vegeta knocks Goku out, he does mention, even you have a weakness, and that weakness is that Goku is too trustworthy. And that really is his eternal weakness. You see it against Raditz. He lets Raditz's tail go. You see it against Frieza. That is Goku's weakness. But that brings us on to our next moment in the Buu Saga, which will be Vegeta after he's revived. So at that point, he's very angry at Goku, mainly because of Super Saiyan 3. And you can't blame him. After he sacrificed as much as he did, and we're not even talking about him sacrificing his life, although we can talk about that soon. Sacrificing his family and everything that was dear to him just for a fight with Goku, and the fact that Goku wouldn't even give him the honor and go full strength and disgrace him like that. Can't blame him for being mad. Also the fact that he sacrificed himself against Buu and accomplished nothing. And then right after that, just to see that Goku was stronger than him in fighting Buu. You can't blame the man for being angry. But he fuses with Goku. And Goku does make an interesting statement here. And Goku, basically, he says, Vegeta, you've always been talking about how we're the descendants of a proud warrior race, and how we need to maintain that pride, and how we are great warriors. And Goku says, our old race is gone. We need to become a new race, one just as proud, one just as great. But we can't go obsessing about our old birthrights to stop it from seeing what's right in front of us. That is a very interesting statement, and I think it has much more meaning when you see GT, when you see Goku and Vegeta's children grown up. all the way. And you see Baby as well as a villain. I think that statement that carries much more meaning when you see those events in GT. But Vegeta accepts that to fuse with Goku. And ultimately, I don't think Vegeta disagrees with that for what he can. And that is something I did want to comment. And I think I might have brought this up in my Super Saiyan video. I think I might have brought this up. But it's the fact that you basically have, like, a Super Saiyan race, if you will, of Goku and Vegeta's children. They are qualitatively different from the old Saiyans. Not only in the fact that they're like half-breeds mostly, but in the fact that they are Super Saiyan, which for the most part is a sign of, well, rage, of emotionality within Saiyans, which is not traditionally seen. And it is seen in these Super Saiyans who have pushed themselves to these limits. And like I did say, Super Saiyan is a mutation. We would say the Golden Great Ape is the natural application of that, and Super Saiyan that we see is an application of that without the tail. Reaching that level of rage and power is not normal for a Saiyan, we would say. So I think Vegeta does have that, and does have that perspective after it. It's just something interesting to comment on. Really, it's more interesting, I would say, looking at it from a lens of Goku, and really looking at it from a lens of, like, the legacy of Dragon Ball. But I think I brought it up in my Super Saiyan analysis video. It's just that quote. Seeing GT, where you see all those characters grown up, and seeing maybe their kids after that, and seeing Goku Jr., and seeing that success line, it's just very interesting to think about, as it goes, their descendants, and the new Saiyan race, if you will, the Super Saiyan race, if you want to say that, and it's just interesting to comment on. But, it's not this video. But, okay, so the rest of it is Goku Vegeta inside Buu, which there isn't much to say about that. Not really. I mean, Goku Vegeta bond, I guess, but whatever. I mean, it's good to see. It's a good example of the Goku Vegeta dynamic, which we're just totally oversaturated with now. But it was good. Really, it's most interesting when they get to Supreme Kai's planet and fight Kid Buu. Of course, at this moment, Goku and Vegeta fight Kid Buu with their own strength. They don't plan on using fusion anymore, which they could. They could have used fusion. They could have brought Gotenks or Gohan over to fight Kid Buu, but they don't. They want to fight him on their own terms. That's like a Saiyan, it's like a Saiyan mentality. But, I don't have much to say about this. Vegeta gets pretty brutally beaten by Kid Buu. Vegeta can take a lot. But really the most interesting thing, of course, we all know, is you're better than me, Kakarot. You are the best. That's the moment. That's the moment. That's where it is. And, that's why I say Majin Vegeta is the last attempt by Vegeta to really close the gap with Goku. And it's right in that scene where that was it. He admits it. He admits it. And that is why what Dragon Ball Super has done with Vegeta in Dragon Ball Super, he's basically like Android Saga Vegeta, where he's just super uptight to just be at Goku's level all the time. And that's just what he wants. The only unique aspect about his character, or I should say aspect I like, is the fact that he doesn't respect God Ki, which is good. Pure Saiyan power, I respect that. But he doesn't respect God Ki or Ultra Instinct and all that. I respect that, but that's just not Vegeta. That is not Vegeta. And the reason is because that is not a Vegeta who has grown. That is not a mature Vegeta. That is not a veteran Vegeta. That's not. That is some Android incarnation, Android Saga incarnation, who is just super uptight about fighting with Goku just because. I'm not sure why. I mean, in this moment, Vegeta admits Goku is better than him. The serious rivalry is over. Vegeta having a general desire to be better than Goku would remain, of course, for always, but his serious motivation to do that is done. That's it for Vegeta from that point. And just the reason I want to say it is because we're going on to GT here, and I think GT captures that in Vegeta perfectly. GT gives Vegeta a phase. A phase of where he's out of it and when he tries to get back into it. That is exactly what you needed. In fact, another part of the series that did that was BoJack Unbound. Trunks mentions that Vegeta in that was out of it, right? He wasn't fighting. He comes back and fights BoJack. And Trunks even asks, you've been moping at home, not training. Why are you here to fight now? Again, Vegeta given a phase. Dragon Ball Super and all that didn't give Vegeta a phase. It just basically carried on like everything's always been this way, and it hasn't. This is after the Buu saga. Vegeta should be kind of mellowed out. He should, because again, in the final atonement, he accepted his family, his home, his friends are more important than his rivalry. He accepted that in that moment. He did. And when he made that declaration, he accepted that Goku is better than him. He will not be better than Goku. And that's okay, because in the end, he has what he wants. His family, his friends, his home. In the end, that is what he cares about. And that is what Vegeta truly wants and what he truly values, and that's what Goku saw in Vegeta when he died. I've said it, I think twice, and I'll repeat it again. A heart of stone couldn't shed tears like you did. In the end, Vegeta was not the pure evil Saiyan he wanted to be. That's not what he wanted. He said it when he died. Frieza made me like this. That's not what he wanted. In the end, he got what he wanted. He didn't accomplish his goals. He didn't. He didn't accomplish his goals. Didn't even win most of the fights he went in. But, in the end, he got what he wanted. And he came far further than any of the former people of his planet ever did in that. Him and his son. We're coming close to the conclusion of this video. Sorry I take my time so much, but I really, I'm a fan of excruciating detail. I'm a fan of just getting it all out, so there you go. But, so. Retired Vegeta, basically, or semi-retired Vegeta. GT. I love what GT did with Vegeta. People hate that what they did with it. I love what they did with him. It was perfect. Perfect. What they did with Trunks was also perfect. Goten was also pretty good. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Quite a good follow-up from where he was going at the end of Z, what Toriyama wanted for him. Yeah, Goten moments are great in GT. Gohan's great in GT. Yeah, just great. The characters are all great. I need to do just a video talking about how GT characters are just right there, just spot on. Maybe we can do a comparison between that and Super. Sounds good. But, okay. So, Vegeta in the beginning of GT, and, we could do a brief summary of, like, the whole epilogue at the end of Z. He shows up in these, like, gym equipment. He's got, like, like a black muscle shirt and these, like, sweatpants on, and, I think he mentions, like, Trunks allowance and things like that. The man is settled, right? The man is settled. He has admitted Goku is better than him, and he's relaxed a bit. He keeps up the training. He doesn't want the boys slacking off, and, he'll try to keep up with Goku's level as he can. But, Goku just keeps going. And Vegeta, in the end, He's relaxed, he's mellowed out, and it's good to see. It's good to see. You see what I like about this is that Vegeta keeps moving forward. He doesn't stagnate. Not Dragon Ball Super Vegeta, where he regresses. Nah, moving forward. You see that? You see, this is the dichotomy between Vegeta that I need to keep talking about. Is the desire for power, being the strongest Saiyan, and his loved ones and his family. Vegeta can never have both of those things. That is the irony of Vegeta. That is the eternal paradox of Vegeta. What is good is that he decided for his family. This right here. Not for power. That is why you consider Vegeta to be a morally respectable character at the end of Z. Because he made that decision for himself. That's why. And that's why GT Vegeta, being even more of a family man, relaxed, retired, showing up. When he first shows up, he's got like the jeans, and he's got like the, what do you call it? Like a travel coat, like something you would wear. This right here. Something like, he shows up in like this. Right? This is like a pure Canadian right here. Like, anytime you see something like this is like the pure Canadian. But, shows, he doesn't show up in that exactly, but, shows up, stash, shorter hair. The man has settled down, alright? The man has settled down. And that's okay. That's okay. It's okay that Vegeta has settled down. That's progression from where he was, and you may not like it, but guess what? You see this a lot in Dragon Ball, and you better get used to it. Yamcha settles down, Yamcha retires. Tien, he gets outpaced, Piccolo retires, Vegeta joins that club. It's okay. It's okay. This happens all the time, and Vegeta was one of those guys in the end. You gotta be okay with it. But, what is interesting is that you don't see that for the entirety of GT. I think really after Goku got Super Saiyan 4, Vegeta got a motivation again to surpass Goku. And I think that's great. But I didn't touch on it in this video, but, in my Super Saiyan forums, I did discuss why Vegeta can't become Super Saiyan 3. And it's because he's never had his potential unlocked. He's never trained in a realm with infinite time and space, or a high degree of it. He's not pure-hearted. And again, Vegeta, he's not pure-hearted at the end. He is, as is seen when all the good people are revived onto Earth and Vegeta gets revived, he is not pure evil at the end. At the end of the Buu Saga, he is good. Not pure good, but good. So, for that reason, but yeah, he can't become Super Saiyan 3 for that reason. Watch that video if you need more, elaboration on it. I think this video's gone on long enough as it is. That's the general reason. Watch the Super Saiyan 3 portion of my Super Saiyan forums and theories. Watch that. Yeah, Vegeta's still not Super Saiyan 3 afterwards in GT, which is good. Good. But yeah, Super Saiyan 4 comes in, and I think he really wanted to become a Super Saiyan 4 because it is the primal power of the Saiyan. It is the natural evolution, final form of the Saiyan. And, it's not like Super Saiyan 3, where it has, it's a pure power deep from the self. And I think Vegeta understands that that kind of power isn't something he should wield to begin with. It's not one that resonates with him. But Super Saiyan 4 does. He is a pure Saiyan. And as I discussed in my Super Saiyan forums and theories, I believe a pure-blooded Saiyan is a requirement to be Super Saiyan 4, meaning Goku and Vegeta were the only ones who could become Super Saiyan 4. Now, Vegeta, as GT goes on, comes out of retirement more. You know, starts off looking like the old dad, the old pops, mustache and short hair. Shaves, comes back, gets mollywopped by Super 17. I mean, it looked like he was going Super Saiyan 2. You get that great scene, especially in the English dub, the dialogue there. What was it? I'm the principal of Saiyans, and that moron Kakarot knows nothing but his stomach and his own stupidity. I've come here to do this job, and I won't leave until I'm done, or whatever. It looks like he goes Super Saiyan 2 in that moment. But, you know, he has an epic fight with Baby Gohan, epic fight with Super 17, but he gets mollywopped. Shows off the final shine, but it doesn't get to do anything. And he gets saved by Goku. But, you know, I mean, he basically goes up as GT goes on, you know. He does. And Bulma mentions that she hasn't seen him training as seriously as he has in forever. So Vegeta, once the Shadow Dragon saga is in place, he's training really hard. And you get to see a clip of him training. And you get to see a flashback where he reflects on a lot of these things. And a very interesting thing he says is when he reflects on the whole "you are better than me, Kakarot," and he asks himself, am I supposed to be just the one who is just capable of comprehending your amazing feats, just strong enough to comprehend you know, your amazing gains? Is that my role? It's very impressive. He asks himself that, you know, that it's a very impressive scene. And it's good. It was good, and it was a good last send-off to the character of Vegeta, really. Again, how GT gave proper respect to Piccolo, that's proper respect to Vegeta's character, for what they can give him. The only thing they couldn't give him is a fight he wins, sadly. But, for what they could do, it was good. I totally agree that if you had Ice Shenron and Nova Shenron versus Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, that would have been better. I agree. That would have been really good. But you didn't get it. So, you know, you at least got Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. And you got Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. And it's also impressive that when Vegeta shows up and goes Super Saiyan 4, he isn't arrogant at all in that moment. Shows how he's grown. He immediately says to Goku, we have to fuse. He knows that's the only way they're going to win at that point, is if they fuse. And it's impressive to see him that mature. You know, he still considers the fusion pose to be kind of embarrassing, but, you know, the fact that he immediately knows to take that turn, I think it shows his maturity in combat. It's nice to see. Also shows that he's closer with Goku at that point, you know? And again, you know, seeing Goku as a friend and all that, and yeah. I'll talk about Goku's perspective on that whenever I talk about Goku, but for now I just wanted to say that. But, one of the last things I'll mention is when he loses Super Saiyan 4 against Omega Shenron, and Goku is seemingly killed by Omega Shenron in that crater there. An impressive part. This one kind of gave me chills, honestly, is when Vegeta, basically he goes in on a suicide mission on Omega Shenron, because Omega Shenron, his aura was so strong that it was literally collapsing the universe in. The planet was literally just self-destructing because just the aura of Omega Shenron alone. And it was said the universe, basically it would, you know, just lead to this domino effect. You know, the negative energy spreads, the planet blows up, and the shockwave just emanates out, and the energy just emanates out, and the universe just is destroyed by his energy alone, right? Again, for the people who say GT doesn't have universal feats, this is energy alone is this level. People who say this. You know, this dude is multiversal. But, Vegeta, he goes on a suicide mission. And he tells Trunks to take Gohan and Goten and everyone, go in a spaceship, leave the planet, and just find some way to kill Omega Shenron if he can't do it. And he just turns Super Saiyan and then he just flies in there. He gets brutally beaten the whole Dragon Thunder gets shanked through by the back spikes on their Shenron. His shoulder gets, brutal stuff flung down. And that's what happens. He survives, though. I mean, the dude continues. It's pretty impressive that he just gets up. But, Vegeta durability. And, Goku wins at the end of the day. But I can talk all about the GT ending for a long time. I love that ending to death. But I'm only going to talk about Vegeta's role in it and all that. So, the last line of Vegeta in the entire series, well, it starts off when Goku's going to leave. And Vegeta goes up to Goku and he asks him, "Where are you going?" "Oh, you're going to train." Goku then whispers in Vegeta's ear, "I'm leaving the Earth up to you now." And that's a key moment, and that's a key thought, because Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Gohan and Majub and Goten and Trunks are basically the last defenders of Earth once Goku is left. And how ironic it is that Vegeta would be the strongest protector of Earth at the end of it, and that he would be left on Earth with his family and with that, and in the end Goku would need to leave. And in the end Goku would sacrifice that. And ironic that Goku would be given this kind of like godly presence when he is this, rough back, low class, not that smart guy who's come all this way, and Vegeta is the elite, the prince, with that birthright, and in the end, it's very ironic, and I love that. I love that in the end, Goku, he is that loving, selfless character, who, without natural talent, pushes himself to the edges of his limits and beyond, and Vegeta is the opposite. He is the selfish, evil, naturally talented one, who in the end, despite how he was brought up, acknowledges, his love and devotion to his family, and in the end is left with, the basic things a man is left with that you could expect, your home, your family, your friends. That's what Vegeta's left with, and in the end, Goku needs to give that up. It's very ironic, and that's what I love about it. And that's why I just love, well, that's just beginning to scrape the surface, but that is something I absolutely love about the GT ending, and that's why I think it fulfills not only Goku, but Vegeta as well, as a proxy through that. Perfect ending. Perfect ending. Brought me to tears several times. I mean, it was actually too painful for me to watch the first time I watched it. Too good. Too good. But I think it concludes Vegeta's character perfectly. Yes, Vegeta could have gotten more spotlight in GT, but personally I don't think his character could have taken a more appropriate turn than what GT offered him. Vegeta's last line in GT, the last line in the series, is to Pan when she picks up Goku's gi. Vegeta says, it is Goku's gi, his clothing. Treasure that. And he flies away in silence. Similar to how he did when Goku sacrificed himself against Cell, and Goku left again. That's it for Vegeta. And I really love that silent note his character goes out on. I already pointed out the irony in it all, and I just think it's beautiful. Well, that'll be all. That'll be all. That'll be all. Yeah. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I knew it was going to be a long one. I knew it was going to be heavy. I didn't know it was going to be this long. I mean, this is longer than Super Saiyan forms, I think. It needed to be this long. I'm definitely a fan of Vegeta. I'm definitely a fan of his character. He's not my favorite character in Dragon Ball, but he is one of my favorite characters in any piece of media I've seen, to be honest. And it's mainly just because of these facts of irony that I pointed out about his character, which I don't see highlighted very much. I don't see almost anyone pointing out these ironies about Vegeta. They tend to say, "Oh, it's very impressive to see him become a good after all this time," and it is. But they don't talk about the dichotomy of what he sacrifices to become good, and therefore what gives his final atonement so much meaning. And this is, I'm not even one who cried at the final atonement. I'm not one who thinks it's like incredible or whatever, who thinks it's like the best scene in Dragon Ball. I don't. But I'm describing the meaning I see in it. I see it having a lot of meaning. But I see not a lot of people apply that meaning. I think really they just say, "Oh, it's impressive he turned to good after all that." They don't talk about what Vegeta truly sacrificed, everything there. Becoming Majin, and in the end giving up all that. And he did. And at the end of that, he would be Goku's lesser forever. And he accepted that, and he was content with that. And, by GT, that's what you get. And, I didn't mention that, is something I like, is the fact that Vegeta reaches Super Saiyan 4, but not through the natural way. He doesn't get a tail and look at the moon and, become a Golden Uzaru and, naturally overcome it. Instead, he uses a machine to do it. And he requires that machine. He doesn't maintain his tail after the transformation. He needs that machine to turn Super Saiyan 4. So he catches up to Goku, but in an artificial, illegitimate way. And I like that. It's a good note for Vegeta to go out on, right? It's a mediation between those two factors that conflicted with his character for the entirety of the series. The factor of he can't pursue his loved ones without losing power or losing the race with Goku. In the end, it mediates those two things. And like I said in my Super Saiyan forums, Super Saiyan 4 in my mind is about a full acceptance of who you are, a full realization of who you are, seeing the truth of who you are. And I think Vegeta turned to Super Saiyan 4 so casually in that regard because he had accepted fully, since the Final Atonement, who he is and what he wants. He had. The moment he made the Final Atonement, he accepted who he is and what he wants, and the moment he said, "You're better than me, Kakarot, you are the best," he accepted his limitations. Again, as I said, I believe Goku's story is about overcoming your limitations by all means, and Vegeta's is about accepting your limitations. That is my opinion. I just haven't seen that covered. I haven't seen that reviewed in detail. I personally think a lot of people haven't gone over Vegeta in the detail I think he deserves, even though a lot of people give respect to his characterization. It's personally what I saw in the character, and I just haven't seen people go into the detail I thought was appropriate. Now, I mean, me ranting about this for 2 hours, I mean, maybe I've got over the hall, but I just thought it was necessary. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So I could have mentioned King Vegeta, like his opinion on his father, like he refers to himself as Prince Vegeta out of respect for his father, but we don't really learn much depth about that. I could have talked about him with like Broly. I mean, in the end, his conclusion there is, "I'm the Prince of all Saiyans," which means Broly, I'm the Prince of you too. I could say more about that, but I don't think, I think I covered all I needed to. Yeah, I think I did. I mean, I'm sure there will be more to add, there will be, but for now, for this, I'm very happy with the result. Thank you for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe on Spaghetti Kingu, the Spaghetti Kingdom. Feel free to join the kingdom if you wish to pursue more of my content. And I'll give prayer to you and your heart for following me. For that, thank you very much. This will be me, and this will be the Prince of all Saiyans, Vegeta. And I'm out. Good to be in a suit again. Thanks.